please also watch to make sure that we are letting people in?
Yes,
Thank
it's notifying me as they come in, so it should work.
Wonderful. So yes, we are going to record this webinar since some of us were not able to join today, but also clearly we're having some technical issues. So we'll be able to view this later online. You can share with anyone else from your team that maybe didn't make it. My name is Kelsey Ellis. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the newest member of our ZAP team. So I started in October, but just so you know, like I have been working in our Salt Lake arts and culture community for probably about 18 years. And I've been really fortunate to actually work with many of you. So I'm excited about getting this program going. We do, as I mentioned, have some other team members on. So Daniel is here on the call, and I think Samantha will be joining us if she is not already on the call. So thanks for your tech support today. If you do have some questions or if you are experiencing any additional issues with our tech, just go ahead and put it in the chat. And I think Daniel's going to watch that for me. All right, so our agenda today, we're going to be looking at the impact program overall. We're going to look at the collaborative program, which is kind of a component of the ZAP impact program. We're going to take you through the interest form, talk a little about timeline, and I am going to leave some time for questions at the end. I am going to cover a lot of new information today with ZAP, so I am going to pause at one point before we get to the interest form. So if you have some questions, we'll have an opportunity to clarify anything there. But then really by the time we get to the questions, the rest of this content's really only about 30 minutes. So there will be plenty of time for questions at the end. And as I mentioned, you can chat them, you can keep them in your head, bring them up at the end, whichever works best for you. And then also if after this webinar, you've had a chance to marinate on a few things and you come up with questions, just feel free again to contact me. That's my information, but it will be available on our website as well. So the ZAP Impact Program really has been in development for since about 2016, 17, when ZAP started their equity initiative. And we've really been working on developing a program that helps our arts and culture organizations thrive. And we really want to use this as an opportunity to learn how to access and utilize our community resources and make the arts and culture community and offerings accessible to all of our neighborhoods. So the goals for this program, providing resources and support to bring our tier 2 groups to their next level of operational, programmatic, or financial organizational maturity so that you all can more efficiently advance your mission. And when I read that, I feel like that's just like a nice long way to say some capacity building efforts. So really, we're looking for opportunities to improve and expand skills and expertise. But we're also looking to foster a sense of community within our grantees. So having some opportunities for networking and convening, which is actually a response to feedback that we get quite frequently in things that we would like to see. Okay, so how are we going to work towards achieving those goals? So the impact program, we've created a couple of buckets here in the work that we're going to be putting forward and developing over this next year. We're going to look at each of these, but as I kind of mentioned, as we're really working to develop this over the next year, we're working on the foundational piece of these organizations or these offerings, and we're going to continue to build them. And they might change and develop it a little bit over time. And really, I'm looking for the opportunity for you all to, participate in providing feedback and being a part of this development process. One thing that's not included in here that I just want to make note of, that we're also part of our impact program is putting effort towards our internal equity work. So reviewing our own board and staff policies or practices. So just something of note that that's something that we're working through as well as we develop this new impact program. Okay, so our first thing we're going to look at a little bit is our okay, so workshops and lunch and learns. These will just be one-time offerings, and not only one of them, but just one-time offerings rather than building upon each other. That will be doing some, again, some capacity building efforts, professional or organizational development. We're going to open these workshops up to the broader community, but really we're going to be crafting the topics and the information, what we're going to be presenting towards the tier 2 group needs. So feedback and information we've gotten from you. We'll do different types of offerings. So one of them is really going to be modeled after our marketing mastery event that happened in October. So I don't know if some of you were able to attend, but this was a 3-hour in-person workshop, and it had a few different components to it. So we started the day with a panel presentation. We had some time that we were to set aside for some networking. And then we broke off into some roundtable or smaller group discussions. So I imagine this is really what those 3-hour workshops will continue to look like. On the horizon, we do have one that we're developing right now for March. So hopefully we can get some information out to you on what that one's going to be about and what that's going to look like pretty soon. We also are going to look at providing kind of bite-sized workshops. So these will be 1-hour virtual offerings that will happen probably over a lunch break. So again, kind of smaller topics, something we can just cover in about an hour. All right, so our other program that we're working on developing is our local arts agency program. So I know that we have a lot of LAAs here in our meeting today, and I just want to let you know that we are working on developing a program specific to LAA's kind of shared organizational needs. So right now, this is looking like we're really emphasizing on kind of this convening element and getting us together. I am looking at maybe a collective impact inspired model, but again, this was something that we will develop with feedback from our LAAs about what we want that to look like. And then with those convenings, we'll probably have some opportunities for some industry experts to come in and talk to us about things that specific needs for LAAs. So more information on this program soon. And I do want to let you know that because this program is still very much in development, I want you to think about it very separate from what we're talking about today as the collective program. If you are interested in the program we're talking about today, please go ahead and we'll address local arts agency opportunities for you as that program develops a little bit more. So I know that's a little vague right now, but I do want to let you know that something's in the works. Okay. So our collaborative program, really this opportunity is looking to identify those individualized opportunities for our tier 2 groups to again work on building that organizational capacity. So it could be various offerings. Here we've listed a few things that it could look like and a few things about what it could look like. Right now with this pilot program, we're structuring this as a 6-month program. Over the course of that 6 month, we would like to convene every month for 2 hours each time. We'll be covering various topics, and the meeting structure could also vary. So we could do a presentation from our industry experts. We might meet together for a more casual coffee conversation with some other of our colleagues or coworkers to have some shared expertise. Or maybe we might be able to find some field trip opportunities, which is something that I'm looking forward to seeing if that's a good fit for our group. Really what I want to highlight here from the details is that they're not fully fleshed out, but that's intentional. Because right now we're going to be working through a process of selecting our participants, and then the participants who will be a part of this 6-month program will be providing feedback on what their needs are, how we want this program to look like. We're really going to be working together collaboratively to structure this program to the specific needs of your organization. And that goes the same for like the days and times that we're meeting. So I'll kind of come back to that in a minute, and we'll look at that in a little bit more detail. I just want you to be aware that I can see that various topics, various days of meeting is not very specific, but we'll get to that. But the other piece of this program that we're looking for is an investment commitment. And what I want to say about that is that, so we are going to be meeting every month, but I would say you can probably expect that there is maybe a little bit of homework or some follow-up meetings in between our sessions. And those follow-up meetings could be with the consultants that provided the first training. And then if we need some follow-up one-on-one time with those consultants to ask some questions, how do I implement this learning for our organization specifically? Know that there will probably be those little pieces that come up in between. Definitely shorter meetings, but just that expectation, or that you can anticipate some work that happens in between our meetings. But also that investment commitment is just, there will be an ask for all those who participate to show up really prepared to share your own expertise. Not only am I looking to get feedback from the participants for me in developing the program, but I would love for you to be able to feel comfortable coming to share your expertise with your colleagues. When we are talking about a particular topic, you may have had an experience where you can share with your group and say, do you know, this platform really worked for me, and here's something that I would like to share with all of you. If I were in a meeting right now with my colleagues about facilitating meetings, I would say, do you know what really didn't work for me? WebEx. Let me tell you why. So this is a lesson learned that we can share with one another. So that's something I would just ask you to be mindful of, that we're really, this is your program as well. So we're here to all share with each other. And really that helps us build up our community resources. So maybe today you don't need a platform to host a webinar, but in the future you may need one and say, oh, that's right, in the meeting, my colleague had this experience, I'm going to give them a call up. So, and talk a little bit about that. So that's a little bit about the program structure. So what we're thinking about here for our participants, as I mentioned, we want this program to be individualized and responsive and really provide that in-depth support for your organization. So right now, to be able to do that, we are only inviting Tier 2 grantees to submit interest forms. So it's not open to other organizations right now. And then we would like to select about 10 to 15 of those groups. So how are we going to select those 10 to 15? I made a note here about how organizations that are similarly positioned, and I'm going to use that language in a way that says we will look at various things. One might be looking for organizations that have a similar budget size. Maybe we're looking for organizations that are all working in similar communities. And really, and then the need is probably our biggest point of consideration, finding organizations that have similar needs for capacity building development. And that's going to be determined not only through the interest form that you'll complete, but also through some application responses that you just submitted in your most recently completed Tier 2 grant application. So that's where I'm going to come to this. This is what we're going to look for and how we're going to select our participants. I really want to emphasize to you that we have this selection process that we're setting these as guidelines. This is not going to be a hard lines on the guidelines that we're setting. But we have over 200 Tier 2 grantees. So we're really looking to kind of start setting some parameters around how we can, make that group a little bit smaller. So a few things that we will need in our selection process. Number one is you must complete the interest form for us to know. And then also I want you to, we're going to look at organizations that have received ZAP funding for the last 3 years. Don't have to have met that criteria, but again, that's one of those places where you can maybe start to create a smaller group. Then we're also going to look at organizations that we've kind of determined are called medium-sized organizations. This is really our ZAP definition for tier 2 groups, what medium is. That's an average 3-year organizational budget of somewhere between $75,000 and $500,000. So if you're outside of this range, but you're still interested in the program, I would just say I still encourage you to complete that interest form. And then if you also feel like you want to have a discussion first before you submit that, just give me a call and we can talk through it a little bit. Another kind of qualifier of medium is organizations that have at least one paid staff person. This can be a full-time or part-time position. And so in addition to these criteria, we're also going to look at the response you submitted in for your diversity, equity, inclusion response in your most recently completed tier 2 application. I believe it's question 11 on the application. And then, as I mentioned, we're looking to group organizations with similar needs for the same kind of capacity building support. And that will be indicated on your interest form. So as I said, really not a perfect science right now because this is our first year, our first pilot year, and we're looking just to find organizations that are kind of at the same starting point so that we can all come to a training session really prepared to do the next couple of learning steps together. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm going to just take a really quick pause here. And then I'm going to open up the interest form where we're going to walk through that. So do we have any clarifying questions? I'll leave some time at the end if you want to think about anything else, but a quick pause for any questions. I think there's one in the chat.
There's one in the chat.
So roughly how many organizations will be chosen to participate? We have it between 10 and 15. So I would say that's a pretty good selection group. All right, do we have any other questions for the moment? I am going to pull up the interest form and walk through that together. Okay. So if you have not already done so, this is the interest form, which you can find. There's a link on our impact page right here. And I'll let you know too, we're going to update this register for the webinar with view the recording. So you can go there if you have any, if you want to go back and view this or share this. So the interest form here, I just want to emphasize, make sure you read through those guidelines again before you complete this, which are on our website. And you only need to submit one form per organization. So I'm going to look here. What I would say, we have a space for contact information. Just pick the person who at this point of the process is your primary point of contact. We can definitely update this at a later date. But something to keep in mind as we get ready to start convening for this, that we will want a primary person for your organization to attend all of the training sessions. However, if there is a session, if we decide to do something on fundraising and development, and you have someone on staff who is a grant writer that would benefit from participating, then they can come to that session as well. But we're really hoping that we get about 1 to 2 people, at the most 2 per organization at these sessions. Really, again, that just gives us the opportunity to provide more individualized support. So one name here for now, just that request to make sure that you can commit to attending all meetings. And we will be really building upon each of the training sessions. And as we're working to really create more of a cohort feel for this program, That's why we're looking to make sure that you can commit to all 6 sessions. So for the first section, what I have here is, this is just a way for us to kind of get a snapshot of where your organization may be positioned in these kind of topics right now. I understand very much this is not an exhaustive list of practices or policies. Again, it's just a very limited kind of, here's where we're at right now. So under each section, we have about 3 to 5 practices that you're just going to answer the best you can. And I really don't want to tell you how to respond. And I say that because I am understanding that some of these, there's kind of a gray area and some of it's kind of open for interpretation. So our first one says, our organization has well-defined terms and roles for our board members. So we're talking about board management and practices. So you may say, you know what, our organization actually has really well-defined terms, but we're still working on kind of the roles for our board members. So you might be, or right in between here. I'm just going to say you're going to answer the best you can here, or whatever feels the best for you. Because again, this is just simply one step in kind of categorizing your needs. And if you say, you know, I'm going to say yes, but I really want to provide some context to my yes, that's what the comments box here is for. So you can provide a little bit of additional information about, you know, I said yes, but really we could use some support in this area. And likewise, because a lot of the questions, at least in this section, are very structural, you may say yes to all of them. Yes, our board actually has great structure right now. However, we're kind of struggling with our board culture and getting commitments from our board members. So maybe you want to add in our comment section here, you know, I responded yes, but here's why some support in board management and recruitment training I could use some help with. And that's there really just to provide that additional information for us. Our selection committee will definitely review those comments and take that information into consideration. Also, don't be concerned if you answer all no's in this section. Again, that's just kind of telling us where your organization is at. I do want to let you know that none of this information is going to be available or reviewed as part of any future grant applications. So there's no impact on how you respond here to a future grant application. This is very separate. Pretty much just myself will be the one having access to that. Well, and our other staff members, but we don't score their grant applications. So, okay, so you're gonna go through each of these sections, different topics, from fundraising, HR. I'll make note here too that we've kind of put some volunteer work and program under human resources, mostly as it kind of relates to contracting, insurance, and agreements and things like that. But if you want to emphasize in this section, like, you know, we don't really have much of a concern with managing staff. We're a staff of 1, but we do have a lot of volunteers. So that would be the area we would want to spend some focus on, is volunteer management and best practices. So in the next section, I've given you a ranking section, and this has all the same topics as we just looked at above, but this is just another opportunity for you to say, you know, this is really where we need our support. This is where we need help the most. So I would just ask, as you go through that not everything is a 1. You rank 1 through 8 on these 8 topics. And then because we have a limited list, I'd just like you to take the time, if there's something we missed that's really important to your organization, go ahead and tell us what other topics that we should prioritize here. The sections right above these are not a required response. It's just informative for our team. Okay, so I'm going to pull back up. We're going to jump back into the slideshow. Maybe. There we go. And before I pause for some additional questions, I just want to look at our timeline. So the deadline to submit an interest form is February 1st at 5 p.m. Our selection committee will be meeting on February 13th to look through all the interest forms. And then we'll send notifications out to everyone that submitted an interest form by the end of February. So those that are selected to participate, you can expect towards the end of March and probably through April that I will be setting up time to meet with each one of you, kind of like a site visit one-on-one time to really go through what you've responded to in your interest form and start to craft that program being responsive to your needs. I'm going to take that information and I will go back to our consultants to give us a training or a proposal specific to the group's needs. And then in May will be our first meeting. We'll determine the date of those meetings when I meet with the individual organizations in April. Okay, a lot of information. But there we go. Do we have any questions? So that was a big dump. And I think I spoke really fast because I was worried that we started 15 minutes late. So if we want to take a minute to ask questions, go over anything, that's what we have the rest of the time for. Okay,
There's
we
one
do have one
question
in the chat, right?
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. Is the idea that next year a new cohort of 10 to 15 will be selected? That's an excellent question. Yes. So really, because this is a pilot year, I think we're going to learn a lot. We're kind of flying the plane or building the plane while we're flying it. And we're going to learn a lot and apply that to a new cohort for next year. So yes, the intention is to continue this, create a new cohort each year with offerings specific to that group. Great question, Anne. I would not tell, so the question is, should LAA groups wait to apply? So this is, I'm going to kind of go back to where I said, like, I'm going to pull these apart. And because our LAA offerings, we don't know exactly what that's going to look like and what your commitments or what we're going to ask for commitment to that. I would say, if you feel like this collaborative program is a good fit for your organization, please apply. By the time we get to the deadline, I'll have more information on an LAA program and I'll talk to you about that individually to say, you know, does this still feel like a good fit for you? But I would say, please apply if it feels good for you. Okay, what will be the topics or themes covered? So again, that is something, I know that's, it feels a little vague right now, but the intention for that is you're going to tell me what the topics and the themes that we're going to cover. So this will be based on how you respond in your interest forms. And those topics, we're going to find a group that are all kind of similar. We're all about the same place when it comes to our development and fundraising plan, or we're all about in the same place for board management and recruitment, right? So you're going to, based on your responses, we're going to find organizations who all have, these are 3 or so topics that we're looking to expand our skills and our expertise on. And that's what the trainings will be on. So that is a to be determined, and it will be determined by your responses. Yes, I totally get. So the comment here is commitment for the meetings and trainings. It's hard since we don't have the dates. And that is something I completely understand. I think what I would like to do though is craft those meeting dates according to your availability. So in the few programs that I have run is a very similar structure, regardless of when we set those meetings. It didn't work for some of the groups. So the intention is once you're selected, I'll meet with each of you. That'll be the first thing we determine is a structure and a schedule to say, I can do mornings, I can do evenings, can't do weekends, can do. So I'm going to get an idea of what your availability is. And then we're going to set up our full 6-month calendar. So we will know in advance of the meetings. We're not going to set them month by month. We'll set the whole calendar out probably in March or April. But I want to make sure that you can attend. So that's why I'm holding off on requiring it's 5 to 7 on Wednesdays, right? And to follow up with that, Sarah, your question about are these in person or online? These are going to be in person. So being able to make that commitment, or if you have kind of someone else who could come if you're unable to attend every single meeting in person. But when we have done these, when I have done these before, having either an online or a hybrid option is really challenging for us to work together in groups and create that kind of cohort feel. So we really are going to push for the in-person participation. Right. Do we have other questions? Did I miss anything else right now?
I don't think so. Yeah. Commitment. Topics.
Okay. I'll give a few more minutes for us as well. I know that some of us were joined a little late due to our technical issues. So as I mentioned at the beginning, this is recorded, this webinar is being recorded. We will post it online. I actually will, as soon as that is available, I will follow up with the link and I will send it to all of you. But it will be on our website. If you have any questions, feel free, of course, to reach out to me directly. You can give me a phone call. You can send me an email. I'm happy to meet with you to chat about any questions you might have, concerns. If you just want a little hand holding going through the interest form, happy to do that as well.
Kelsey, there's one more question in
One
the
more.
chat, and then I'd love to make a couple comments before people start to finish up the questions and kind of round out the meeting.
Yeah, I think that's great. Thank you, Smith, for catching that. And I will actually let you answer the question and then you can have some time.
Sure. I'll answer this a little directly as we get through, but indirectly at first. We're really thrilled to have capacity building back with ZAP. It's been a little bit of time, I think. The last capacity building we did was for local arts agencies that Vicki had put together an advancement initiative, which was great. Hiring Kelsey is absolutely thrilling. You know, as ZAP, we do 3 main things: our grant making primarily, promoting the ZAP brand, ZAP grantees, the ZAP functions, all of those things, appreciation for what people do for ZAP, and then capacity building. And so we've hired Kelsey to do that, and it'll be called the Impact Program. And as you can see, she laid out 3 different areas of how people can participate, meaning grantee organizations can participate. We're absolutely thrilled. We hope that you have lots of questions and that you're very interested. Again, this is our pilot year in each one of the programs that she mentioned. We hope to have at least 3 workshops this year that are for the bigger, larger group that anyone can come based on if they have an interest in the topic. Hopefully it won't be long, and she's going to make it conveniently scheduled the best that she can. The cohort that she spoke mostly about today is very exciting. The fact that we can take about a dozen or so grantees and walk them through some specialized training that they're interested in learning and gaining, and they can work with each other as peers is absolutely thrilling to do that effort, as well as other opportunities, whether those might be scholarships in the future to certain programs that other organizations work with. I guess what I'm saying is this is all really exciting, and we can't wait for you to participate. In regard to the reauthorization, I believe that one of the 3 larger areas is probably going to cover some promotion, marketing, communications. Of course, it's probably going to be a similar format, as Kelsey mentioned, that we had the Marketing Mastery. The Marketing Mastery was an event that we held last year, and we've got probably the most positive feedback we've had in a long time. And so we want to continue that conversation where we bring marketing and communications folks together with executive directors as well to think about the reauthorization and supporting the reauthorization through promoting yourselves and your events, as well as reminding folks that ZAP helped make these things happen. So it'll be a little bit about the reauthorization. Regarding the reauthorization, you'll be seeing a lot more from us about that happening in our newsletters. A firm has been, a third-party firm has been hired. The Exoro group was hired by the Tier 1 grantees. It's called the Preservation Committee, I believe. They've hired a firm to start doing some of the marketing and promotion, but we'll also be doing it here. I'd ask you to come to the open house that we're having on February 8th. That is right around the corner. And we have got collateral in English and Spanish separately, as well as combined. We've got a lot of swag that we'd like to give to you: posters, banners, clings, wristbands, water bottles, notebooks, stickers, tattoos, all those kinds of things that you've seen in previous reauthorizations, and marketing in general. We'll be giving those out at the February 8th event, which we're pretty excited about. So that was a long way to answer. I just wanted to share how excited we are, that we hope that all of you at some level this year consider participating with Kelsey and her impact program to do capacity building very specifically for you. Whatever way and time you have available would be great. Oh, workshops offered online. I think, Kelsey, that was a good one. It's not a question, but I know that you've done those and you have experience, and that you do plan to do those kind of in between these bigger gatherings in person, or maybe you just share an example of that. That was really helpful. I'm learning that from me. So
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I do want to be able to offer other virtual trainings and workshops. When it comes to the collaborative program, I think that will be something we can kind of feel out if we have a training or a gathering that we feel like works together for the group to do as a virtual option. But either way, because we're really working as a cohort, we would just all need to probably commit to being either in person or online. But we will have other trainings and learnings outside of the collaborative program that definitely we want to offer online. One offering that I did that I thought was a perfect little bite-sized workshop is something you could, as I mentioned, you're having lunch while you're having it, an hour just on insurance coverage for nonprofits. You know, best practices. Should you get D&O? How much does it cost for your organizations? What about event coverage and things like that? So we will definitely have some opportunities for online and virtual offerings. But definitely, I appreciate that comment as well. Okay. Anything else? We still have a few minutes. I'll give some time if a few other questions come up. But as I kind of wait for that, I do want to say once again, thank you so much for joining today and for jumping in and rolling with the tech punches that just came my way. So I appreciate that. And if anything else comes up, again, feel free to reach out to me, any of our team members, and we'll be here to answer those for you. All right, thank you so much. Everyone have a safe, hopefully warm day. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.